Hello, greetings, and welcome to the show. I am your host, Maggie Cavanaugh, and today I am here with my brother in Christ, friend, comrade, Keith Jowers. And Keith, I should say Dr. Keith Jowers, because, you know, he has a PhD, but he is a very humble man and very gracious to be here with us today. But Keith is up to all kinds of great stuff all the time. He lives in Jacksonville, Florida with his beautiful wife, Glenda, who is an amazing woman of God. I absolutely love her. But he has such a diverse background, everything from law enforcement, acting, and the founder of Dads for Life. So, Keith, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Maggie. I appreciate you having me today.
Well, it's been a while since we chatted, and I was like, I need to get Keith back on the show because you've been doing all these really cool things lately. And I love it because I know, knowing you and Glenda, I know how spirit-led you are. And I know that you guys really discern the seasons of life that you're in. So for like the last 3 years, you have stepped out into a passion. And you're passionate about all kinds of things, but you've been doing all this acting stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in that?
Yes, Maggie. I for 30 years, I worked on stage at our church and did various things. And I started, just being in musicals and all sorts of different roles were popping up, and I would accept them and never really knowing. I just wanted to be involved at church and help bring that message across that we were doing. I was really enjoying every part of that. And then as in my law enforcement career led me into being a school resource officer, I actually got involved with drama at school because couldn't find a teacher to do that for the kids, and they really wanted to do that. So my wife was like, okay, one more thing to just add on. So I did. And sure enough, we stepped out and I did a couple of things that I started on my own. And then I worked with chorus teacher, who was a lovely lady. And she and I put together some musicals. So I was teaching a lot of kids backstage work and how to, act and how to be as good on stage and off stage together and learn skills about life and how theater can help you do that. It's just things I had learned personally. And then all of a sudden, it come to the 10 year I was leaving, they didn't have drama anymore. And that really kind of, was a bummer. But, the thing is that everybody has a season in life. But for those 10 years I was there, we kind of really enjoyed doing some drama and helping the community and raise some money and doing some neat things just to help kids. They learned backstage skills. They learned character acting. They learned singing. It was just a wonderful time.
I absolutely love that. And I love the fact that God had you in the role of a resource officer because law enforcement is a very important role. And so first of all, I want to thank you for your service, and as well as those that may be watching from any type of first responders. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys, and we support you guys. But knowing someone like you, Keith, knowing you on a personal level and knowing someone like you was in a middle school dealing with tweens, young teens and things like that, it brings me as a mom and grandma great comfort. So how many years did you do that? Was that the 10 years or?
Yes, I was actually in middle school and high school together. For 10 years, I was actually on that campus alone. That was my beat every single day. And I then went into working with elementary kids. And I don't know what happened to me. I went from working at one school to working at 31 schools and managing 100 civilians at the same time. It was just really a strange time, but we got through them. And I did that totally for 18 years. So in my 30-year career, I spent 18 years actually working with kids. So it was good because that was a whole different era of working as officer friendly. But interesting enough, I started as officer friendly in the 80s as a young police officer, and I ended my career as officer friendly 30 years later. So
I absolutely love that. And that's probably where a lot of your books were maybe inspired from, some of the books that you've written.
Yes, I actually have written 4 books. 2 were dealing with parenting and children, and especially coming to being a young divorced dad. But I decided back then I would spend time with my daughter, and I would no matter what it took. So, but then as a police officer, and then after I retired, I saw the media just really downgrading the police, and I know policemen, and I know their hearts. And every organization has something they have to deal with that it's not positive. But you know what? For the most part, Policemen are wonderful people and they care about their community and they certainly love kids and want kids to stay out of trouble and doing the right thing. So I wrote two officer friendly books called Meet Officer Keith. And there were two different things dealing with actually what a police officer does and working with your canine friends. So it was really, that was inspiring back then too, because the media doesn't treat us very well.
Yeah, I know. It's very, very sad what we see in the media, but there is a huge advocates of people that do love our law enforcement and appreciate the work that is done. And it's really, to be honest, it's just a sign of the times. You know, when we talk about Second Timothy, I mean, it's just like played out whenever it comes to, you know, talking about police officers and different people, lovers of self, and that whole passage really defines where we're at now. So, but I'm so thankful for all of the years that you spent sewing into that. Love the books. Love my grandson Dorian. You know, the K9. When he got a dog, I got your dog book, and he absolutely, it was perfect. But it's super important, and what you've done over the years with Dads for Life is incredibly important. So since you are now out acting, I know you were all over the place. You're in Franklin, you're going to Ohio, you're on all these movie sets, sitcom sets, all these things going on in your life right now. How are you balancing all of that? I mean, that's a lot, Keith.
With my wife, Glenda, helping me balance my schedule. You know, and being retired has definitely helped out a lot, obviously. But, you know, we go through seasons in life, Maggie, no matter where we're at. It could be a good season. It could be a bad season. It could be a learning season. You can always learn something from the seasons you're in, as long as we just keep humble and we just don't, you know, think that we're better than somebody else, or you know, that we're doing something great, because you know God has a plan for all of us, as
Yes.
Jeremiah 29:11 says. And if you follow that plan, you know, then He's going to direct your steps at the right time. I never saw myself doing what I'm doing now. I truly didn't. But the doors keep opening. I keep walking through them. So, and
And
obviously, I'm being typecast as a police officer a few times too. So I don't know why.
interesting. I did not realize that. So can you talk a little bit about the movie that you guys were shooting in Franklin?
Yes, I can. That's actually through Called Hire Studios, and I'm really involved in them. And I just really, their vision is phenomenal. Called Hire Studios is going to be an up and coming studios. We are growing already by leaps and bounds. Just after our first project we did, it took over almost 2 years of planning, but we did a movie called Camp Hideout. It'll be out next summer, hopefully. And it's got just, if you could think about Ernest Goes to Camp and Home Alone and mixing those two scripts together, that's Camp Hideout. And we're excited about that. And I was a police officer in that particular movie as well. So, and I get to take care of the guys at the end. But, you know, the thing about it is that we have grown so fast, so quickly. We're now already into a children's book series. So it's really cool what the Lord's done through Cold Hire Studios.
I love that. I love that concept because I remember back Home Alone, first of all, is classic. I mean, it's just so funny. So it just makes me smile knowing that. And Ernest, I mean, like that's real entertainment back in the day.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have Jim Varner around anymore. But you know, I think when you think about those kind of things that make a family laugh, and even though they're kind of crazy and people can get hurt actually doing the stunts, but when you do those kind of things, it brings funny, because it kind of teaches kids too. Okay, you don't do these things. You know, you don't do these kind of things, and you'll see that in Camp Hideout. That with that particular movie, that you know, some, well, it's interesting how the thing comes out that you just kind of should be doing the right thing all the time. So I'm
I
excited
love
about
that.
seeing the results of that particular movie.
I love that. And we know that you are a very spirit filled, faith based man. And so this film, it sounds like to me that it would actually minister to people who are not Christians as almost an outreach kind of thing in a way, from what I'm hearing.
It definitely will be. Jason Brown and Ash Grayson, that was their goal, is to bring a film together that's going to help us in just building people up. And you know, there's plenty of movies out there that don't do that. And but
Yeah.
I'm really thrilled any opportunity that I have, whether playing a policeman or a dad like I'm playing in Ohio, a very concerned dad, or you know, whether I'm playing a gentleman at a potluck dinner that I'll be playing later on in the week in Ohio. So, whatever I'm playing, I just try to do my best at it and learn from that particular scene because, we can all reach and teach someone, Meg. It might just be one person, but you know what? You may be that person that can reach that person with that particular role that you're doing at that time.
That's exactly right. I believe that to be true. That we have so many teaching opportunities in, and we're both in ministry. We both have nonprofits, and we understand the importance of reaching a demographic, whether it be teens, tweens, adults, but overall, it's just really being obedient to what God is calling us to do in whatever season we're in. And it's exciting to me to see you do all of that because, knowing you and Glenda personally, it makes me so happy because not only did you star in that film, you were also there as a chaplain, weren't you?
I am a chaplain, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so originally, was that originally how it was going to be? And then you ended up with the role in the film. God's always doing something cool.
No, actually, I offered my services to that, but the whole thing with COVID thing, you have to be. It just really today it was hard for me to be there. Obviously, my schedule to be there the whole set, but I was
Sure.
there, and of course, we were praying for the movie all the way through it, and we had beautiful weather. Oh my goodness, it was beautiful, except for a couple of days. Y'all did send us. God did send us a lot of rain, but while I was there,
You're in Tennessee.
That's right. While I was there, it was beautiful weather, so I told him I brought him Florida sunshine as my
gift.
Yes,
you did. I know when I knew you were headed to Tennessee and it was horrible here, I was like so grateful that you did bring the Florida sunshine. We needed it right after that horrible storm.
Yes, thank you.
So you've got, so you're flying out or you're going to Ohio this week, and where else are you off to?
I'll leave for Ohio this week. I'm doing a Christian sitcom there actually, which I think is another thing. We need to have more quality products or programs like that'll help you laugh. Laughter does good like a medicine. Well, some people can actually, make you laugh enough where they feel like you got a whole pharmacy. So, and I think movies and sitcoms can do that as well. So, I took an opportunity. I just auditioned. I just said, well, I'm going to audition for this. And I was very blessed when I received a call from the producer that they wanted to have me as this role. So I'm excited about that project too. But it's probably next year coming out as well. And we're not sure what network that'll be on. And then later in the week, I'll be up in further up in Ohio, north, and I'll be working with Jason Campbell of JC Films, is another great studio, and putting out a lot of faith-based, inspirational family movies. And I'll be in a project called Duplicate Divinity. I'll get that right. It's hard for me to say those two words together. So
it's a tongue twister.
Yeah. Anyway, Duplicate Divinity, I think is it. So we're excited about that one. I'm not sure any details when that might be out either.
And what is your role again in that one?
Actually, I'm just going to be at a potluck dinner, and I'll be. I come up with a really funny senior citizen project. Let me just say it.
I love that God is using you to bring humor onto the set and in these movies. That's so exciting. So, Keith, it's such a shift and a change because I know that Dads for Life is very successful. It has helped multiple men over the years and women as well, that have single family homes, the resources, the things that you have made available. So what's up? What's new lately with Dads for Life? Are you still doing your broadcasting?
I've kind of not. I haven't been doing any broadcasting lately.
Okay.
I'm trying to put together some new projects. We did have Dad's Garage come out this year, and that's been those first couple of episodes was really a wonderful project to do. I do hope to get back to doing some more of those projects because we talk about restoration, and whether it's a personal restoration or whether it's a family restoration or whether it's a dad and a child restoration. I've talked to prisoners who said, I don't know if I could ever restore that. I said, well, if you're breathing, there's hope. And if you got hope, God can help you restore that. And sure enough, one cried and told me that he just wrote a letter after suggestion. And sure enough, they started that communication because everything starts with communication.
Yes.
I believe, but with our father crisis in America today, it's kind of going in the positive direction, but we still, have four times greater risk of children without a father going into poverty, and young girls becoming pregnant because there's no direction, and there's no ways to teach them when you're not there all the time. We also have, it's proven that more kids have behavioral issues. And remember, Maggie, I did this for 10 years at a middle school, high school. I can tell you a lot of this stuff is absolutely true because I dealt with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they look for that love in different places when a father's not there to give it. When I raised our daughter, I said, this is not my role to teach you how to be a lady. My role is to teach you how a lady should be treated. And sure enough, a lot of men agree with that. That's right, because I don't know nothing about teaching her how to be a lady, but I know how to teach her how a lady should be treated. So at 16 years old, I took her on a date, opened the door for her, and I bought her meal, of course, obviously. And I talked to her just about life. I talked to her about boys. I talked to her about, just making the right choices. And, none of us are perfect, but we can learn through people who really have a little bit, some wisdom. And I think dads, if you really look into it, you've got some wisdom you can share with your kids. You just have to open your mouth up to discuss that with them.
That's so good. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's incredibly important. And I would agree with you. We read the stats and they are startling. But whenever we see it within our professions, the things that are going on, like I've been real passionate this last 2 years about helping tweens and teen girls connect with their mothers because let's face it, as women, we need to be imparting, the older to the younger and the younger to the youngest. We need to be working together. And there's such a crisis in identity going on in the world today. And so it's just taking those nuggets of wisdom and transferring them and encouraging someone to use them. And that's what you're doing with Dads for Life and the Restoration Project. I absolutely love it. What I think is so cool is the little intro video in the shop. That is like the coolest ever.
That place, I could stay there for hours, actually. And, he started that car museum as a ministry. And when I was down there just looking at everything, kind of like you do in a movie set, you'll go and kind of scope out the place. And I was down there and I literally saw a father and a son talking about what a carburetor used to be like, or what he used to do back in the day when you could actually work on stuff under the hood. And literally he was under the hood explaining that to his son. And when I did the interview with Sidney Hobbs, who owns that, I told him, he said, well, it's about restoration. I said, well, let me tell you, it's working. And I explained that to him, that story. And he was like, really? I said, yes, that's true. Because not only in restoring the cars, you could sometimes have to really spend a lot of time restoring your relationship with your children.
Absolutely.
Maggie, or with your spouse or with your family or whatever it takes. It starts with somewhere, and if you're both quiet for the rest of your life, then it never gets restored. Well, if the car sits rusting out in the field and never gets started, it never gets restored. So it's good to find that restoration process and whatever we need to restore. Yeah, and it starts with God, I think.
Yeah, it is incredibly important. And I love the analogy of the old cars being restored, because that's what it's like. We have to look at the old stuff. We have to sand down any rough edges of, issues of unforgiveness or things like that, and really communicate about what is God saying about relationships. It's so vitally important. And that's, one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is strong marriages, strong families. And I do believe that can turn into raising strong adults that are able to rely on the Lord, not on their own strength. When I say strong, but rely on the Lord. I always use the analogy of the triangle. Here's me, here's my husband, here's God. The closer we get to God, the closer we are. Period. Right. And that goes for the same with our relationships with our children. But we're in a generation where it's kind of like this, and it's all about me, 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 me. They're just very, I was talking to a young lady that's 22 the other day, and she said, my generation has been known as the first generation to be the most self-centered. It's all about me. We live in a selfie world, and we're losing the art of communication because everybody's doing this instead of doing this, looking at one another, communicating with one another. And I'm so glad that you brought that up about fathers taking their daughters out. Now, obviously, your daughter's older now, an adult, and you took her out when she was 16. I really believe for you dads out there watching, talk to your girls at like middle school, 12, at the latest, because I can promise you that there are kids at the things they used to do in high school, they're doing in middle school, and the things they used to do in middle school, they're doing in elementary. And it's just mind blowing the way that Generation Z is changing. So do you have any advice for parents? You are so good at what you do, Keith. Do you have any advice for parents in a digital world?
You have to know what's going on. I remember a parent telling me, well, that's her phone. I can't go on her phone. I said, who did that child buy that $1,200 phone or $500, whatever it costs? I mean, today, I don't care to have a new one because of the costs involved. But the thing is that whatever that they're using to communicate with the world, I can tell you this, that if you bought the phone, you need to know what's going on that thing, because it's really attached to your name too. We just finished up a movie in Orlando about human trafficking, and
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it's called Not for Sale. It'll be out later, probably first of next year. But the thing is that particular the digital world is used a lot in that particular
It is.
industry. But you have to know what's going out there. And I remember a case I had actually right when cell phones came out and the AOL chat line came out and all that back at that school. And I chased down an internet predator. 48 hours it took me. I didn't sleep for 48 hours till we found him, but we found him. And I had very limited technology ways to figure it out back then. So I just went back to the old school way of doing investigations, but we found him. But today it's a lot worse. It's a lot worse than, parents have to know what's going out there on the internet with their children.
It's incredibly important, and the film that's coming out in January is incredibly important. So you all make sure that you watch that when it comes out. It is Not for Sale. And tell us about your experience on that set. I'm excited about that film because I'm so passionate about human trafficking.
I just went,
let me rephrase that. Yeah. Stop human trafficking.
Yeah. I went down there just to be involved somehow, just to help. And I wound up playing a hotel clerk in that particular movie where girls are brought to. But I can tell you that no matter, first of all, just no matter what the role is, I'm just happy to be involved. If it's helping somebody, if it's inspiring somebody, or if it's making you laugh, those, or leading you towards the Lord. Those are some of my keys to be involved in something. But I just went down there. It was just, I just wanted to be involved, and I was going to be in the background. And sure enough, because of what it's doing, and Florida is a very high rated state in that mess. But everybody has their way of looking at different problems we're having. Well, our country has a lot of problems right now, and you have to figure out, okay, where do you fit in to make it better? Gandhi said, if you want to be the change you want to see in the world, and whatever it is, as long as you're making somebody happy, or that day, if you can make somebody smile, there you go in the store, nobody even smiles anymore. Like you said, they're always looking at this, but and then you smile at somebody and they wonder what's wrong with you sometimes, but right. You want to get somebody's attention, go around near somebody and cough, even though you're doing it at your elbow, then they get, then people want to look at you really weird. You. So, but life is short, Maggie. And the Bible says life is short. It's like a vapor. It's like a fog. It'll disappear very quickly. And we have to do something today that's going to help somebody for tomorrow. I just believe that. And no matter what you do, you can find that in helping somebody. And, I have a quote. I've said it about 15 years ago, and it's caught on somehow, is that, if you go through life helping only yourself, you'll go through this life alone.
Yes. Laura's amening with you over here. She's amening with you. Sorry, audience. Sometimes we try to keep this very evergreen because this is going to be available on Creative Motion Network, and so I don't interact like I typically do. So it's not that we're ignoring y'all. We appreciate the viewers checking this out because it is important information. I'm talking today with Keith Jowers. He is an actor, a nonprofit. He holds a PhD. He is a chaplain, and him and his wife Linda live in the Jacksonville area of Florida. Florida, and their ministry, the Dads for Life, has impacted so many people over the years, and there are books and resources available to you. So I encourage you to go check out the website, subscribe to anything that they're doing, and recognize Keith's face, because God has moved him into doing something he's very passionate about in the season of life. And I cannot wait. I'm so excited about the projects that you're working on, because I think you're right, Keith. Even if you are just on set praying, that is bringing glory to God and helping those things come forth. And I'm so glad that you went down to Florida to be a part of that, because that is an incredible thing that needs more exposure. We're way better. When I first heard of trafficking like 20 years ago, we are so much farther along and than where we used to be as far as awareness. But it is still a huge issue here in Middle Tennessee. It's really bad. It's really bad because we are like a hub, because we're like, 3.5 hours to Atlanta, 5 hours to Indianapolis, 4 hours to St. Louis, Birmingham. We're like right in the center, and you can be at any major city at any time. And so it's incredibly important. So if you guys, please be aware, educate yourself, look for the signs. There are signs available to you if you are in truck stops, or even, and don't think that this only happens in other countries. It's happening in your own backyard. Be familiar with your neighborhood, be familiar with some of the signs, and we don't have time to go real deep into that, but the Lord just kind of pulled that up out of my spirit as you were talking about that film, how awareness is vital whenever it comes to the season that we're living in, and the Second Timothy lifestyle that we're seeing so many people live. And human trafficking is replacing drug trafficking, because it's a lot easier to hide people than it is drugs. You get pulled over with people in the car, it's no big deal. You get pulled over with drugs in the car, you're going to jail. So, it's just a really challenging thing. And I'm so glad you went down there, worked on that project. I'm excited about all the things God's got your hands in, and definitely always passionate about Dads for Life. So Keith, if you could leave the audience with a key, what would that key be?
I think that key, Maggie, would be that, we're all free to choose. The choices we make, though, today is going to determine, what we're going to have, be, and do for the tomorrows of our life. Yeah. I just believe that the more we're involved in something that's passionate about and changing somebody else's life, then, and not just ourselves. I think not only is your life going to be better, not only is your life's going to be more peaceful, but think about it. You change somebody else's life. And, if you lead them to the Lord, that's even better, right? But I'm talking about just being human. My grandfather, I love him, and I got a picture right here on my desk of him from 1970 something. But he was a big man. But you know what? And even though he might not have the same opinion of you politically or what you think about sometimes, you're a human being. God made you. So he would ask you if you're hungry, on the Sunday morning dinners after church or whatever, they'd be huge. I mean, he made sure if you walked by his house, you weren't hungry, okay, or thirsty. But he would offer so much to so many people. And we've gotten away from that. We only think about ourselves, Yeah. And in time, there's nothing new under the sun. But in time, right, God can turn any situation around. So that would be my key. And I would like to just give you a scripture too, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Ecclesiastes 3:13, it says, man should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of his labors, for these are gifts from God.
So good. So good. I love it. I love it. I love it. And, your grandfather is a very wise man. And I'm thankful for the generational blessing that he has passed on in your life, and you've been able to pass on to your daughter, but yet to share with the multitudes. And give Glenda my love. I love her. She's an amazing woman. And the two of you together are just God's doing such amazing things. And it's because you take each day as a gift, and you impart that to others. So thank you, Keith, for all you do at Dads for Life, and we look forward to seeing you on the screen. And we'll see you guys here next time on Keys to Your Best Life. God bless.
Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you for being back on the show with me. It's always a pleasure. God bless you.
God bless you.